Welcome back. As we promised our dear viewers that our very first segment of the breakfast show is going to tackle our amazing pharaonic civilization. A day after the other, we are going to amaze the whole world with secrets discovered a day after the other. What about the latest discoveries? What about the new secrets which we are going to reveal and to dig into the civilization with our expert, the author in Egyptologist, Bassam al-Shamaa. But before we start, let me first congratulate him over honoring him by the Arab League, to be accurate by an academy affiliated to the Arab League recently, upon his work and about his performance when it comes to the lectures he is giving all over the world, to say how much we are very much proud to be Egyptians. Mr. Shamaa, congratulations first.
Thank you very much.
And a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you. I'm enchanted to be with you as usual every week, and thank you very much for that. I'm a guy who is so dignified and venerated by my own country. That's something that makes me so happy. I'm really very happy. Yeah. I'm so enchanted.
Good morning, Mr. Shamaa, and congratulations for being honored by the Arab League. And we would like you to shed, before going, of course, into more details about the ancient Egyptians and the mysteries and discoveries, we would like to know the to greet you and to know more the reasons behind the honoring by the Arab League.
This is the second time, thank goodness, for that veneration by the Arab League, affiliated by one of the academies in Egypt. I gave a lecture there about the genius of the ancient Egyptians. That's the second time I've been venerated by the guys. And the good thing about it is that you are venerated by an Egyptian academy, by a whole cosmopolitan concept, and for the work of history. And that is nice, because that is the fuel that gives you and gives your engine more power and more energy and more positive energy to go on. That is a message to everybody, and especially to our youngsters. From locality, you can reach, if you like, stardom outside. If you would like to be venerated by the West, be venerated by the East first.
Yeah. Mr. Shamaa, when it comes to, as I said, the pharaonic civilization, as also I said, we are going, not only us, the whole world is going to be amazed by the secrets revealed. Sure. Let's talk about the latest discoveries.
All right.
Again, Tutankhamun, am I pronounced it right?
Try the last name.
Is it Tutankhamun?
Ankh is right. Iman.
Tutankhamun.
For the correction. Well done. Well said.
The Japanese said something great and discovered something great, those two chambers. And there are some organic material. We don't know what is it. But there are some speculations saying that it can be the remainings of Nefertiti, Al-Gamila Atat, or the beauty came. What's your concept?
Okay, number one, let us wait until the 1st of April, when they are going to make, at the end of this month, the 31st, they are going to make the last kind of ring, and then on the 1st April, they are going to kind of now expose all what he meant by saying some part is organic and some part is metal.
Yeah.
So that was so ambiguous in his first, well, now he's gone, but the new minister is saying that he's going to continue everything. Nicholas Reeves, the Egyptologist who produced and introduced, the British one who introduced the idea at first, I'm not a total big fan of the gentleman. He was actually stopped in the Valley of the Kings in 2002, and afterwards he was stopped again. So I'm not very confident in his work.
Yeah.
But let us wait and see. And next time, to our new Minister of Antiquities, my and many people's message to him, because we know that you are a guy of a great academic background. This is our new minister.
We are going to speak in detail about the new minister and about his very first statements, which he said right after occupying this position. But let's continue what you have just started about Nefertiti. Of course, we are going to wait. But what's your own point of view? Is it going, or is it a percentage? Give it a percentage.
0%. 0% that there is the mummy of Nefertiti. Nefertiti, right? Not Nefertiti. So the correction, and the correction to us. In my old books, I used to write it Nefertiti, and then all of a sudden, no, let's take a look another time for the cartouche. I don't think there will be any mummies for Nefertiti. I don't think Nefertiti would be at all. The concept of burial of a queen who was the enemy of Thebes, the enemy of Thebes. in the Valley of the Kings. So I think it would be a
we
very
have some
hard.
photos here for you.
I brought you this one because this is the one in Berlin, and we will never give up asking for her to return to her hometown. And if one day, in my time or after my time, this lady will arrive, we shall put her in Tell al-Amarna in Al-Minya, because that's where she was found. She was found in Tell al-Amarna, not far away from the bank of the River Nile there. What a beautiful place, Tell al-Amarna. Oh, I worked there for years. What a beautiful place. One day I was on a cruise guiding a group, and I drew my curtain like so. River Nile is on my level on the cruise. And all of a sudden, what do I see? In Tell al-Amarna, I'll never forget this. How many years? The whole River Nile, without 1 millimeter exception, is wine red. Red because it was sunset.
Okay.
And the River Nile all went red like dark gazelle blood red, as they call it.
Yeah.
What a beauty that was. So there, the head of Nefertiti was found. Where it was found in Tell al-Amarna, it was found in an atelier.
Okay.
1300s BC atelier of amazing sculpture. His name was Juhutmes. We call him Thutmoses.
Yeah.
Arabic, Thutmose. And that's not the king Thutmose. That's not the king Thutmoses.
Yep.
No, that's a sculpture. He was a genius. And here is the surprise. So there is the day of surprises. Nefertiti's head that you are looking at, ladies and gentlemen, this beauty, this amazing masterpiece that dazzled the world, and still people come droves for lines and queues in Berlin Museum to see her. I would like to see those queues in my Al-Minya, in my Egypt. It was one of the 50 pieces that Juhutmes decided to leave behind when he was going to Luxor, when he was going to Thebes, when they left Tell al-Amarna. What? Are you trying to tell me that this was a leftover because he thought that was not my standard?
Yeah.
What was your standard then? If that was one of the things you considered a second-class work, what was your first-class work? Your genius sculpture. We need, here is another advice for the new minister. You need to go and search, send the Egyptians, once again, send the Egyptians to dig in Luxor for the atelier, the second atelier of Juhutmes. Perhaps we're going to find his work that he took with him from Tell al-Amarna to Thebes, that he thought that it was first. It was his
first class.
First class. If that was second class, I say this was second. This is a masterpiece. So this is a great surprise for us. Now, Nefertiti, something very, take a closer look at her neck. This thin, long, beautiful neck, because that was one of the beauties of women, right? Like the neck of the giraffe. And in Africa as well. Look very carefully. What do you see? I told you before this, I will repeat it again to the Egyptians. When you visit a museum, or when you look at a masterpiece, or when you look at any artistic monumental piece, any artifact of ancient Egypt, look on the facade, look at the rods in front of you. And then after you are satisfied, I'll tell you what to do. Look on the back. Because you will be surprised by the amount of info that you will get from the back of statues in ancient Egypt. Do not take the ancient Egyptian sculptures for granted. Do not say, oh, he's proceeding with his left leg and his hands are holding the seals and he's wearing the nemes and he's got the clear-cut features. You know, those classic features that we keep on. No. That's not the Egyptian. The Egyptian is always surprising you. The back, always surprise you on the base. He's carving that hieroglyphic word on the left that will give you a whole new chapter of Egyptology. Now, look very carefully. What do we notice? We notice that this part, the back, rear end, on the lower part of the head connected to the neck. Her crown, she collected her hair. So that she can put all the crown without seeing one piece of hair from her head, right? But I noticed that this part from the readings has got no hair. Why is this part? You all have this part of hair, unless you would shave it. So did Nefertiti shave that part of the head, or did she shave bald? Because you don't see any hair coming down from anywhere. Not front, not back.
And that's the only statue for Nefertiti?
No. Oh, we have loads.
Well, what about others?
We didn't. The ones that I know about, in all my modest readings in the last 30 years, very little of the hair is shown. In the Egyptian Museum, I advise everybody, go to see the most exquisite heads of Nefertiti. And more important than more important than this one. Why? Because it was unfinished. So the black, dark outlines is still there. So that is to me more beneficial for my study than a complete piece like this. But hey, it's a masterpiece, it's a masterpiece. Let's take a look at the other pictures. Now I brought you another picture for Nefertiti. You were asking about other pictures. And here we go. Thank you very much. Perfect timing. Now here is the second. Is that the second or the third surprise? Or we will stop counting after 5.
Yep.
This is a boat, all right? And on the boat there is a shrine room chamber. Let's take a closer look. Let's change into the third picture, please. You will notice that inside that small chamber shrine, there is a depiction of Nefertiti's while she was doing the most amazing act. The most surprising act. Let's take a look at the second photo, please. The after this one. And you will notice what she's doing. She is smiting a captive of war. Once again, because that sentence it can change the history of Nefertiti. I'm not exaggerating. It can change the history of Nefertiti. Now, she's smiting with a mace head in her hand, holding the hair of the captive of war, and she's smiting, beating the living daylights out of his head. Thank you. Right? The shrine is very obvious here, clear as crystal. Now, there is a closer look at the coming picture that you will notice how Nefertiti is smiting the captive of war. Why am I so surprised at she smiting a captive of war with a mace head? Of course, that should surprise you. That should gobsmack you. That should make you faint. I'm wondering why people are not fainting. No, faint. That will literally, if that theory is correct, literally that will remove books. I'm not exaggerating. And put new books on the shelf in Egyptology. Why? Smiting the captive of war would not be in ancient Egypt, would not be an act but for the ruler.
This was my question. You want to say that Akhenaten? I'm pronouncing it. I'm نحط بالرابع to be okay. Okay. He was just dedicated to what he was doing regarding leaving Amen and changing to another deity and stuff like that, and he left the whole issue of ruling Egypt and of the wars and of the enemies and of taking care of the country to his wife, to one of his wives, which is Nefertiti. Nefertiti
was given a title by her beloved husband Akhenaten, who was head over heels in love with her. And he is a husband, and he is deadly in love with his wife. Can you imagine this?
Yeah.
In 2016? I don't know. All right. So, what is he doing? He gave her the title that I call the dangerous title. He gave her the inheritor. What? What do you mean? The inheritor.
Yep.
He dies. She rules. She rules directly.
Instead of
him.
No, after his death.
After his death,
yeah,
she will take power according to that title.
Yeah.
And she kept the capital also in Tell Amarna.
And that is why I'm refusing that she would be buried in the Valley of the Kings unless there is a huge surprise on the 1st of April.
No.
That's another story.
There was an expert once I heard this sentence. To think that Nefertiti is buried in Tell al-Amarna as if we are talking about a Jew who is buried in Mecca.
You mean in the Valley of the Kings? Right. She would be buried in Tell al-Amarna. She would be buried in Tell al-Amarna, but not in the Valley of the Kings.
In the Valley of the Kings.
You mean not in the Valley of the Kings?
Yep. Yes. and this comparison was very much surprising even to me.
But behold, my dear, behold the world. Behold the world. I learned in my very modest 34 years of history is that I will never, ever say never.
Yeah, surprises are always expected and accepted when it comes to ancient Egypt.
You are always being surprised. Right. But let me finish this very quickly, which means that this scene, by the way, is that big.
Yeah.
That big, look. To my fingers, that big. But this scene, if correct, I saw it once in my life in the United States. That's it. If that was correct, that means that Nefertiti ruled as the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, as the king queen like Hatshepsut.
Hatshepsut.
And by this, we add to the 6 female rulers a 7th name. We have names like Khent Kraus, like Tawisret, like Hatshepsut, like Sibuk Neferu, Neat Ikriti could be. All those female names could have ruled in ancient Egypt as Egyptian women. You'll tell me, and where is Cleopatra the 7th? I tell you she was not Egyptian.
She was not, yep.
Ruler, yes, of course.
Ruler, but not Egyptian.
But she was not Egyptian.
So we have Hatshepsut and we have Nefertiti as lady rulers, queens during the pharaoh's time.
If you believe in my theory here,
yeah,
you will make them 7. So I'll be very popular among women because now I'm adding another. Let's take a look at the other surprise. So, they never cease to amaze us, always coming up with things. Second no to Nicholas Reeves and to 1st of April, she will never be the mother of Tutankhamun.
She's not?
No. The mother of Tutankhamun is Kea, an amazing, gorgeous lady, second wife for Akhenaten, or Akhenaten, right? Which means that in Akhenaten, maybe he was a revolutionary in his religion, maybe he was a revolutionary in his art, maybe he was a revolutionary in his politics, because he moved the most strongest capital of all. Can you imagine England, for example, would move London to Northampton to be the capital, for example, with all respect to Northampton? Or Southampton, whatever. Can you imagine, for example, Cairo moving its capital somewhere else? Very hard. We would love to, but very hard to do.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. Because at that time, when you change Thebes into Tel al-Amarna, you are not changing only the capital politically, you are changing the capital and the country religiously.
Yes.
So
what was the reasons behind moving the capital from Thebes to Tel al-Amarna?
Of course, good question, my dear. Of course, he would love to be away from all this headache of the high priests of Elam. Because we have 7,000 people working in Karnak temples, not Karnak temple, right? So 7,000 people saying, you are the enemy, oh, you are the bad guy. And he was sweared at. Akhenaten was the only king in our history, in our ancient history, who was sweared at. Bad words was given to his memory and his character. What was the bad word? What was the swear? I can say the swear word. That's okay. There is no restrictions on that. The enemy. And the word the enemy, if you describe somebody, you are the enemy, that's the worst of the swear words in ancient Egypt. Those people were polite.
And they knew well how to differentiate between the son of the deity, called the pharaoh, was considered as the son of God or son of the deity, and not anymore. He is not. And on the contrary, he is also the enemy. So this is another story.
Actually, that's a very important story, because now the surprise number 5 is the first king in our history from dynasty or dynasty, if you're American or British, so that nobody, dynasty or dynasty, from royal family 1 to royal family 31, we added 1 now, including the Zero dynasty. I wrote something about the Zero dynasty lately. The Zero dynasty, right, or dynasty. Who was the first king to be called Per'a, Pharaoh? Akhenaten. Which means that Cheops, was never given the title Pharaoh. Mentuhotep the second unificator of Upper and Lower Egypt, a strong man of the south. He was not given Per'a, he was not given Pharaoh. Menkaura, Mycerinus, was never given. Snefru, the good king. They used to call him like this. Somebody was sweared at, and somebody 1,000 years after his death is still called the good king. 1,000 years after his death, which means he was a good king.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the other picture, please.
Right before we see the other picture, I would like to know your opinion regarding the Egyptian excavations as opposed to excavations by foreigners. I mean, excavations held by locals and excavations by foreigners. How do you see both?
I'm all the time for Egyptian hands in Egyptian soil. And that is not degrading at all from any non-Egyptian person who loves my culture and respect my culture, and here is the coming one, venerate my history when he's writing about it. Veneration by what? By exaggeration? No. I will give you the negative points of ancient Egyptian culture. I shocked my people on the Facebook by writing 3 articles of the most, what? Bassam was talking about the Egyptians that big all his life. Now he's telling us about negative stuff like that. Oh yes. Oh, that was a society. and society have negatives and positives.
Yeah.
We are in no need to beautify our history or any other history. Civilizations, my dear, are types. There is the ambiguous civilization, the Incas, the Aztecs, pyramidian shaped constructions, beautiful. Bolivia, Colombia. Do we know more about that? No. Why? No writings.
Yes.
In some of the monuments there are no writings, and I don't know. The Shikora's mummy in Chile, they call them the black mummies because after they mummify them, they would put black mud on them, so they call them the black mummies. Did you know that the black mummies of Chile, South America, 2,000 years before us in mummification?
But nothing was written on their statues, on the monuments.
Many of those monuments were left, if you like, scriptless. So we don't know. Babylonia, the hanging gardens of Babylon. The good thing about your culture is that it stayed, alhamdulillah, thank goodness, thank Allah, it stayed with its texts.
Yeah.
So now we know more about it.
Yes.
This picture I brought you from the Egyptian Sahara Desert. What do you see when you look at that? What do you see? Can we have the whole screen for a minute, please? If we can just open the whole screen for that picture. What do you Egyptians or our beautiful people who are seeing us anywhere in the world now, who are interested in our beautiful culture, we like to share it with you, share information. What do you say when you look at this rock formation? The first thing that comes to head is a sphinx. There is the head on the left-hand side.
You are telling me that this is a man-made issue?
Here you go. What do you think?
I don't think that this is a man-made issue. A man-made.
But what does it give you? A camel?
Yep.
It gives you a horse. It gives you a lion. It gives you a sphinx.
The first impression is a sphinx. The first impression, but
right.
But
was it a sphinx and it was weathered? Was it man-made and it was weathered by the wind because it's in the open desert? Was it just like the Sphinx of Giza? But the Sphinx of Giza was restored and this one was not? Here is a question. Or was it, as you would expect,
all those possibilities are okay with me.
A natural formation?
Yeah.
That's the question. Dr. Al-Baz, in the 90s, in the Great Sphinx Convention, 1992, but Sam, my memory is still working. He introduced, my memory is still working. Look at me saying that, right? He introduced a theory called Yardang. Yardang theory is simply wind forming rock formations in our desert. And more than one rock formation. Let's take a look at the second after this one, please. Looks like a sphinx, looks like sphinx. The Yardang. And the theory is going on telling us whether that was like this natural. When the Egyptians saw it and matched with the whole cemetery, pyramids, temples, like that, he embellished it into a form of a sphinx. So the idea of the sphinx, of a recumbent lion with a head of a lion or a head of a human, was not originally the idea of the people who are carving this.
Nature is imitating the artist or vice versa?
Exactly, the first one. Is that nature is rather giving the artist the impression that made the inspiration.
Okay.
That is the Yardang theory which was made by Al-Baz. I sent to Al-Baz when I was young, 90s, and I sent it, at that time it was faxes. There was no emails, faxes, right? And he replied by his own handwriting. Bless him. I told him, your Yardang, I love your Yardang. I'm writing a book about the Sphinx. I would like to mention your theory in my book. Yes, sir, go on. And those are the scientists.
Yeah.
You know, my dear, the best description that I would love one day, after I'm all long gone, the people would say about me is modesty. I don't want them to say that this man, history and I don't know what. Modesty. Because modesty is the number one description of any scientist. That will make him reach the people very quick. Look, this is the Yardang that Al-Baz was talking about. This is a typical Sphinx. And by the way, when I say the Sphinx, here is the sixth correction surprise. The word the Sphinx that we use when we look at the statue at the pyramids area is wrong. Once again, people, please, after you all your permission, the word Sphinx should not be describing that huge statue or any other similar ones, small or big. Why? Because the word Sphinx is coming from the idea of the Greek mythology. We were talking about the Greek mythology before air. And the Greek mythology is telling us that the Sphinx was a lady, female lioness, with a human lady's chest at the top, with 2 wings, standing over a pillar, throwing puzzles at the passers-by. If the passerby knew the puzzle and knew how to solve it, he will pass through. If not, she will devour him. And that's why she was called the devourer. That has got nothing to do with our guy here. Nothing. There is no relation whatsoever. Our guy here is a male lion, no wings, and no puzzles. Thank you very much. And of course, the puzzle in the Greek mythology was the easiest of all. I wonder why the people were devoured. Who walks in the morning on 4, midday on 2, sunset on 3? Of course, the human. If you get somebody 7 years of age. But all those heroes of the mythology of Greece were devoured until Oedipus came. Oedipus. And he solved it. So she committed suicide. And she jumped off the pillar. There's nothing to do with our Sphinx. We took the word. We repeated it.
What's the word?
We are not. Perhaps that is the reason why we took Sphinx, because it's Her, M, Achet. Her is Horus in hieroglyphs, the falcon. M, the letter M, is in hieroglyphs. Achet, one of the most beautiful words that I love in ancient Egypt, the horizon. So it's the falcon in the horizon. That is the naming of the new kingdom for the Sphinx of today, this huge Sphinx of today. Right? So Haram Akhet is more correct than the Sphinx. But now we took the Sphinx and we made a square in Muhandisin called the Sphinx. And remember when I was telling you this picture is important? Remember I was telling you about Snefru, the good king, 1,000 years after his death, he's still called the good king? This man left us with the most ambiguous building of all, in Dashur. 15-20 minutes from Saqqara Step Pyramid by your car. Go there and all of a sudden you are in the desert, in the Sahara, and all of a sudden you are in front of 2 pyramids. For the first time we see a king building 2 pyramids for himself in the same area, some meters apart. One of them is the Red Pyramid, which is the complete pyramid of Dashur, and by the way, the first complete pyramid in our history. Not Khufu. Khufu is the second most complete. Snefru was his father, and he left us with the bent pyramid, which is the most ambitious one of all.
Right, so just allow us to go to this report.
Please.
And we'll be right back. Under the slogan, Support Tourism in Your Country, an Egyptian popular delegation headed to Russia. The delegation comprised artists, public figures, and media figures to participate in the return of Russian tourists to Egypt. More details in the following report.